favorite. I know. Okay, and now we just adjust your hair and... You're the littlest mermaid. Yes, you are. Welcome to Teacup For One. My name is Matt, and I have 2 degrees. A while ago, I did an episode all about The Little Mermaid, focusing on Howard Ashman and his work on Part of Your World and the I Want song, and how that was a big catalyst in ushering Disney animation into what we now know as the Disney Renaissance. But as brilliant as those movies were that came after The Little Mermaid, The Little Mermaid itself, specifically, is one of a kind because it is Disney's only perfect animated film. I'm not saying that The Little Mermaid is necessarily better than any of the movies that came after it. I mean, Little Mermaid is better than most movies, but some of the others, Lion King, Beauty and the Beast, Hercules, would give it a run for its money. But no, I am saying that Little Mermaid is unique because it is the only animated feature that can only exist successfully as an animated film. Like, that movie, that story cannot be told in any other form other than animation. And I feel like a lot of this can be attributed to Howard Ashman and his work on The Little Mermaid, because when he was given the opportunity to go work at Disney, he specifically picked to work with the animation department because he saw a lot of similarities between animation and musical theater, because he felt like animation was an ideal medium to provide that kind of magical world where the audience will accept people singing. Because just think about movie musicals that work versus the ones that don't work. When they work, you don't question why the characters are singing. You buy into it, and then you just go along for the ride and buy into the story. When they don't work, the first thing you're aware of is, why are they singing? That's weird. Why is the gladiator singing? Or why is Catwoman singing? Why is Captain Jack Sparrow singing with Bellatrix Lestrange? Now, just like how I said, I feel like Howard Ashman revolutionized the I Want song by pushing it and having it embrace its full potential. I think he contributed something equally important here, because he recognized that a musical could work as an animated film, but then he just pushed it one step further by writing his musical to embrace film's big strength: intimacy. One of my favorite videos on the internet is Howard Ashman coaching Jodie Benson while she's recording Part of Your World. Now, I'm sure we can all picture Jodie Benson's voice the way that it is in the film, but if you're unfamiliar with her outside of the sphere of Disney, just let me tell you, she is a vocal powerhouse. Jodie Benson can, belt the roof off of a theater.
Who could ask for anything more? Hold the man forever. I don't mind him. You won't find him round the door.
But in this video, Howard Ashman is coaching her to pull back on her vocal strength and perform the song almost talking, almost whispering, because she's not performing for 1,500 people at the Lunt-Fontanne Theater on Broadway. She's performing a song that was written for just an audience of 1. And when you listen to Part of Your World with that in mind, it becomes so evident that that's the intention with which it was written, and that's why I think it loses a lot of its power when it is performed on stage to a giant theater of 1,500 people. And it's not just Part of Your World. I feel like this mentality is just woven into the musicality of the entire film. The other big example I can think of is Pathetic. No, literally the lyric, the word pathetic in Poor Unfortunate Souls. That entire song is about Ursula putting on a show for Ariel, but then indicating her actual intention and her subtext to the audience and to Flotsam and Jetsam. So you have that moment where she's singing to Ariel, "I use it on behalf of the miserable, lonely, and depressed," and then quietly, intimately, because it's her secret, just to the audience and to her cronies, pathetic. Then back to Ariel, "Poor unfortunate souls." That is music that is written to be filmed because of that little tiny secretive moment that tells us so much about Ursula's character as a manipulator and as a con merwoman. Just think, when it's on stage, that moment turns into miserable, lonely, and depressed, pathetic, poor, unfortunate souls. She is singing pathetic as the ladder, the musical climax of the song at full volume for Ariel to hear. Does she think Ariel can't hear her? Are we supposed to think Ariel is stupid because Ariel's not stupid? Are we supposed to think that Ursula is stupid because she has no awareness of who's around her and who's listening? No, Ursula's not stupid, so therefore I guess you just think we, the audience, are stupid, that we're not going to clue into that? Maybe I'm overthinking it, but I'm not. And the movie's use of visual intimacy goes beyond the music. I didn't actually research this, so I could be totally off, so please correct me in the comments if I'm wrong. Like the time I said that Launchpad's last name was McQueen when it's really McQuack. I'm so embarrassed about that. But regardless, I'm pretty sure this is the first Disney animated feature to really utilize close-ups, like extreme close-ups. Think of that iconic, beautiful shot just of Ursula's lips when she says, "Your voice." Because it's a close-up on the lips and she's saying your voice while she's about to buy the voice. Oh, it's so good. And since we're talking about visual storytelling, I think it's also really cool to make note of the fact that this is one of the first fairy tale films that Disney produced that was based on a story by one specific known author. It wasn't based on a folk tale that had a lot of different variations. No, Little Mermaid was written by Hans Christian Andersen. And even though Disney's movie kind of moves away from a lot of his major plot points, mostly, the murder, it's very faithful to the source material in other ways. Specifically, visualizing Hans Christian Andersen's imagery. I'm going to read to you now. The sun rose up red and glowing from the water, and its beams brought back the hue of health to the prince's cheeks. The mermaid kissed his high, smooth forehead and stroked back his wet hair, and wished that he might live. Then bells sounded in the large white building, and a number of young girls came into the garden. The Little Mermaid swam out further from the shore and placed herself between some high rocks that rose out of the water. Then she covered her head and neck with the foam of the sea so that her little face might not be seen, and watched to see what would become of the poor prince. So the animation clearly does justice to his words and his descriptions, but I think more importantly, animation does justice to the story. Because think about it, what are two of the most important key factors in the story of The Little Mermaid? First, it takes place underwater. Second, she has no voice for half of it. First, we're going to talk about the underwater thing, because I am personally convinced that animation is the only way to effectively tell a story that takes place under the sea. And I know it's been done on stage, and I know it's been done in live-action filmmaking, but has it been done well? No, the answer is no. And, to be fair, I really should have done my research and watched Aquaman before doing this video, but that means I would have had to watch Aquaman. Does anyone really want to watch Aquaman? I did watch a clip. This is what it presented to me. When stuff is done under the sea in a live-action, photorealistic way, you just have way too many questions. Like, why does it look like they're flying? Why doesn't it look like they're underwater? How are they talking? Next! On stage. Overcoming the obstacle of putting mer creatures on stage in a live production becomes the main appeal of the production instead of the story. And then what does that do to the actors? You get these poor actors that are either wearing mermaid tails that have to be carried around the stage, or they're aerialists. Or you get people wearing Heelys that have a tail coming out of their butt while they're wearing a dress, so it looks like they have a double tail that's split in half. One's coming out of their butt, and then there's their actual just Heelys. No matter what happens with the costumes, what you're left with are these poor actors who are in something that is physically restricting them from fully physically expressing themselves. Compare that to the characters in The Little Mermaid, whose fluidity of motion is just the most natural thing in the world. There are scenes when they're just fully upside down because they feel like it, except it's not something you really clock because you don't notice it, because it's so natural and you're focusing on the character and the story. And that brings me to the most important point: the story. The most important plot point is the fact that your title character has no voice for the entire second half of it. I think one of the most underrated parts of The Little Mermaid is the montage when Eric is showing Ariel his kingdom. Montage is one of the most effective things you can do when you're making a film. And in this montage, we get to see Ariel experience and embrace all of the things that she sang about wanting 35-ish minutes prior. And what is so brilliant about this chunk of the movie is that once Ariel loses her voice, the entire film shifts from being a musical to practically being a silent film, where all of the emotion is just conveyed visually, because it's mirroring what's happening with your title character. And just think of it this way. The rule of thumb with musical theater is that when a character hits an emotional peak and they can't express themselves through spoken word anymore, they sing. That's why The Little Mermaid can't work as a live musical. Because when she's at her emotional peak, she has no voice. The advantage of telling that story through film is that you're able to get really close up and just use visuals to express those emotions instead of song. Anyway, those are my thoughts on why The Little Mermaid only works effectively as an animated film. And that's the Teacup For One. I would love to know in the comment section down below if there are in fact any live action films that effectively will show me mermaids under the sea though. Not beached mermaids. Don't make me watch The Lighthouse. I won't do it. And if you liked this video and you'd like to hear me explain how Audrey from Little Shop of Horrors was a direct influence on the characterization of Ariel, please click that video right there. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel by clicking on my face. Ow, just kidding. Thanks for joining us today, everyone. Matt out. Go away.